Good evening. I'm Jisla Chai. Today, the topic for my presentation is space-based solar power. This is a brief content of what I'm going to present in the next 20 minutes. So first, we will go through the history of SPSP systems, that is space-based solar power. Then about the functional and performance requirement of the system, where we will see a few parameters related to this approach. Later in the working and the block diagram. After that, we'll move into the concepts of GeoSSMEO system. At the end, we will see the recent works and researchers done in the field. So to go over the timeline of development in this field, it all started with a fictional story by Isaac Asimov, a short story in which the concepts of harvesting solar power using huge solar giants and transmitting the collected power from space to Earth. So in 1968, maybe inspired by his story, Peter Glaisher was the first one to introduce the concept of solar power satellite. And in 1978, NASA started its study on SPSP, and later in 1995 published a paper, The First Look, on this approach of harvesting clean energy on the design and feasibility study. And by 1990, space solar power has already attained its international attention with its conceptual beauty, and an era where too much concerned about global warming and nature threat. By 1990, Japan, and by 2010, India and China has started its study um, on on the working of SPSP, and in between in 2000, the first book on SPSP, the case study of the case of space-based solar power by John Mankins, was published. And in 2016, America released a statement that America must lead the transition to space-based energy. And then here you could see the progress from 2010 to 2023. In my slideshow, I'm mainly focusing on the working of Caltech, the key players, launching the first space-based solar power in 2023. They started the working in 2014. By 2022, they have almost finished it, and with the help of SpaceX, a commercial space company, they have launched the first satellite in March 2023. So moving on to the next slide, there's no wonder it took around 50 years to make the concept into reality, and this model proposed by Peter Glaisher in the year 1968. This diagram here shows a sketch that was provided in the patent that was published just a few years later by Glaisher. So what we see here is a large photovoltaic surface, and then a mechanical connection to a microwave radiating antenna, and then transmitted to power wirelessly to the power stations on Earth. Next, we'll see some of the features expected by SBSP systems, or the core requirements of the solar power system. Its primary function is obviously to harvest and collect the solar energy from space, then converting this DC current into microwaves, and then transmitting to the ground or ground receiving stations. And in the performance requirements, SPSP system is expected to achieve at least 80% power conversion efficiency in space. Power transmission of about 5 megawatt in FOB terms, and beam intensity of 240 watts per meter square, and a continuous coverage of 100% base load. So moving, and these are the performance requirements, and here you could see some functional requirements. And moving on to the block diagram, this is a block diagram of SPSP system. Starting with the solar array, it captures the solar radiation and generate a DC power. In microwave circuit, the microwave generator converts this DC power produced by the solar cell to radiate RF output. It consists of DC RF conversion oscillator, which is typically a low power and followed by a gain stage. Finally, a power amplifier. The space antenna is a transmitting antenna in the space, which might be dipole, slowed antenna, or even a parabolic antenna. We need highly efficient amplifiers and generator for such kind of wireless communication systems. So next one is retina. The concept of retina was first conceived by W.C. Brown of Wright and Company, Retina is rectifying antenna, specially designed to convert the microwave energy into DC electricity directly. So basic retina element consists of dipole antenna with a Schottky diode placed across the dipole element, and around 85% of efficiency is observed in such systems. So the sole input to such system is solar radiation, which is clean power source, which effectively acts as an unlimited supply for entire lifetime of the system. And terrestrial effects do not act as a controlling factor for this space-based solar power, but a space weather is a controlling factor of a space system, as well as with significant effect on receiving station and devastating solar system and solar storm. And AC and DC power is a key output that will be distributed to meet the energy demands. And waste heat is a natural byproduct of the system. So what are the key ideas now in realizing a system of this sort? One key thing to realize is that the RF beam microwave will have to be steered, and the steering can be done electronically as well as you can see. And here now imagine having a multiple RF source here, and the waiting phase of the source here is such a way that the resultant beam goes into different direction. As you can see, the resultant beam goes into different directions. Instead of mechanical steering, we use electronic steering for this kind of phase controls. So in order to move, the first thing we need to do is to think about a basic architecture tile. Basically we have four different types of architecture, but here I'm just focusing into that first one is single-sided PV and single-sided RF, and the second one is dual-sided PV with single-sided RF. And here we put the PV surface in an organic material on one side and of the spacecraft, and RF antenna of the other side. This is easiest to design. Then next we'll move on to the concept of GEO versus MEO. MEO is as you could see, MEO, we have two kinds of orbits, GEO and MEO. MEO is the orbit which is around 2000 kilometers away from Earth, whereas GEO is far more, because around 35 or 36,000 kilometers away from Earth. So the key concept to understand here is that if we are using GEO, we have to use less number of spacecraft. If it's in MEO, we'll have to use more compared to GEO. We'll have to use more number of satellites, but we'll get a good coverage. So in the next slides we'll have a quick comparison of how GEO and MEO will look like. So this is how GEO orbit, because before delving more deeper into this thing, we have to be familiar with some parameters. So I have listed it here. So when consider you have Earth, you have a GEO orbit, and you have that satellite. So the angles between the sun, earth, and the PV panels have to be considered for analyzing how much exposure this PV panels are getting all the day. And moving on to MEO is also having such kind of parameters, but different from GEO. Here we'll be considering some other parameters compared to GEO. These are just I just want you to familiarize with such kind of terms, nothing more deeper than that. So this is now we are comparing GEO versus MEO. If it's a MEO constellation, say if we are using MEO constellation, by placing 5 equally spaced satellites in a circular orbit, we'll be able to cover all area with an angle of 72 degree between each satellite. So, and it's found that dual-sided GEO and dual-sided MEO are having around same kind of efficiency. Now this is a summary of how much solar power we get from each solar system. So say we are getting 1 kilowatt per meter square as the incident solar flux. We'll be placing around 5 dual-sided satellites in our MEO system, MEO orbitary. Say we are having a PV panel of 550 meter into 550 meter. The total incident power will be, even if the incident solar flux is like all time will be flux means the intensity, or how much solar radiation we are getting, and the incident power will be 412 megawatt for one satellite. So these are the efficiency that could affect our system. There might be a geometric efficiency and efficiency, DC, RF conversion efficiency, and all those things. But at the end, these I have been multiplied it here just for the sake of understanding. I have kept it in this way. So the highest frequency a solar panel could achieve is around 10%. So that's given here, 9.3%. So if that's the case, the transmitted power will be 38 megawatt. That is 9.3% of 412. So the power contained in main lobe is around 84%. If that's the case, by taking 84% of 38 megawatt, we'll get 32 megawatt from each dual-sided satellite. So these 32 megawatt will be available from 5 stations. Now, okay, we have studied about the orbitary or the requirements. Now we must go, or we must study how these systems are packed and put to the solar, or put to the orbits. So for that, we must have a good architecture of how to fold these number of giant systems. So for that, we'll be having a lot of structures with us. So first we need to fold it and then wrap it. So we'll be having, as you could see, you will be having bundle, such like hundreds of bundles will be there, and you might have to put that much amount of solar panels. So you will fold it in a good way, or in an efficient manner. So by using this folding and wrapping technique, we'll fold it and we'll put that to a satellite, and then after reaching there, we have to unwrap it and unfold it. So this is a nature-inspired design that scientists took from the moonflower, because that's how the moonflower blooms. So once it reaches in this orbit, say we are having such kind of 8 rollers, first thing what we do is unwrapping it, then unfolding it. So then now it's ready for accepting the solar radiations and transmitting it back to Earth. So this is how it looked like in ultra modular power stations, because at the end we'll be having this spacecraft array, but each spacecraft array will be a module, and like each section of that array will be a module, and that module, each strip and module will be as shown here, and in each strip, each section will be a tile, and that tile is the one that we see here. So obviously this might be a big one, but for such kind of uses, we manufacture very thin kind of solar panels. So the major innovations in this field was done by JAXA and NASA, and recently by Caltech. JAXA, they were first in by 2000, JAXA created a LEO. Were focusing on putting a satellite in LEO. Later they were studying about georbitry, and the major contribution of JAXA was to make ultra-thin lightweight mirrors for this purpose. Then Caltech, recently by March 2023, Caltech has put its first demonstrator to orbit to study which PV panel would do better here, or which kind of materials they must use, what method they must deploy. So for that, a demonstrated kit. Just for an example, they have kept they have launched a demonstrated kit, so that they can study for this which material would do, where should we keep these things, and okay, for studying all these things, they have kept this demonstrator. See, this is the ALPA ALPA section, there you have a 32 PV panel cells to study which one will do better, and they're having dolly 6 into 6 feet architecture pattern to experiment with how it will open there, or what kind of mechanism they have to deploy and all. That's it. Now here you have a video here to demonstrate how it works. Let's see that. So these are the merits and demerits of a space-based solar system. First one is it's always solar noon at space. So 24 into 7, 365 days, all time will be getting the solar power. So there is no break in it. But if you are placing the same solar power on Earth, it's subjected to day and night, bad weather conditions, climate, and the intensity of light, and all those things. And collecting surface could receive much more intense light if it's placed in orbit. If that sun rays or sun radiation is passing through our atmosphere, there's a chance of losing. Not a chance, obviously some kind of some amount of rays are lost. And the satellite could be eliminated 99% of time, as I've said. And discussing about the demerits, it is having huge costs, and we have to build this giant structures in space, so it might take large farms. It will consume a lot of space, and it's having high cost. And to conclude, this is a 50-year or more than 15-year-old technology, 50-year technology, and it can be deployed in mini constellation GEO, MEO, or LEO. And it is having a 30% advantage. Dual-sided PVs are having more advantage than single-sided RF, because they could collect the radiations all time. So this is a advancing technology. If you are interested in some kind of research and all, it's a hot topic for it. So that's it. Thank you.